Welcome, everyone, to this interview. My name is Jasmine Frazen, and I'm interviewing my dear friend and colleague, Christopher McCord. And he's developed an amazing vision program that helps with seeing with your eyes, but it goes much deeper into deeper work. But we're going to interview him today on this simple exercise called the active gaze. So, hi, Christopher. How are you doing?
Hey Jasmine, thanks for doing this. I'm glad to be here and sharing what the Active Gaze program is about.
That's great. So let's just start. Why don't you share with us what is active gaze and how did you come up with the name for it?
So Active Gaze it's an exercise for eyes, but it's more than that. It's a way of seeing. So when what I found from practicing it, that it doesn't only improve the eyes and the ciliary muscles in the eyes, but it's a way of looking at things, and that way becomes kind of a habit that just automatically kicks in when you're, say walking down the street and kind of scanning the environment. Sometimes it reminds me of like Sherlock Holmes or something, like it's like you kind of like focus in on things, and then it like it becomes part of um your learning, or your experience, for sure. But it becomes it's like you take the information in a new way from doing it.
And it just applies to your daily life and normal living. So it's a way of integrating your environment.
Right, right. So it's a way of seeing, and like I said, it exercises the ciliary muscles. um, Another aspect of it is that, say you get triggered, say you have some kind of encounter and you're kind of like emotionally charged with some, like when we get triggered, we have our past trauma experiences tend to come up to the surface. And when that happens, we get very kind of like contracted. We get like all of our attention goes in to our body. Well, what I found is when you practice active gaze, you're kind of going in the opposite direction. You're It's kind of like when if I know you have, but when people have done therapy sessions and it's been deep, and then the therapist says, and now, open your eyes and like focus on the room. It's kind of like that, maybe on steroids. It's like you really, you're fixing your attention out on things, so that um the pull of the trauma is not uh engulfing you. So
So,
it's a way to self-regulate, essentially.
and it regrounds you into your environment and connects you
Yeah,
to
yeah.
reality.
Yeah, I mean, in simple terms, when you get traumatized or when you get triggered, you become very subjective, and this is an objectivity tool. It actually it induces a sense of objectivity just by practicing it.
Which affects that affects vision, or it gives you objective vision or perception of something beyond just eye muscles.
That's right. Yes, yeah, so it has like a psychological effect besides. The other benefit is that with the contouring, like contouring is what I originally called it, and that is the essential exercise. And active gaze is sort of like that's the name of the program. It's kind of like the brand name. Um, but you don't you can you can contour more than just the outside world. you can close your eyes and you can contour what you're seeing inside, in your mind's eye. Even in your, like if you have a developed somatic sense, you can use that to go into areas of the body, and see what is there. And so what's also developed through this, through active gaze, is visualization, the ability to visualize and make sense of that, all that stuff that goes on inside of a human being.
And that's a whole world of opening inner sight with learning how to see with your imagination, with your inner eye. I could see how one would connect to the other,
Yeah,
connecting the outer world and inner world.
right. It's also that that ability. I also find that it's self-empowering. It's like you can be in like a crowd of people, and if you can tap into the inner shapes inside of you, it's like you're self-possessed, and you don't get you know overextended by all the human energy in your environment.
Yeah, it'd be so easy to be pulled in different directions with all these energies around you. And I could see how this would bring you and self-compose you inside,
Yeah.
bringing you inside. Okay,
Well,
so
and
can I
and
ask you
and you
more?
asked about how, the name. So that's the name there. Yeah.
Great. So I understand that active gaze was derived from the Tibetan eye chart.
Yeah.
Can you tell me more about that?
Right. So the Tibetan eye chart is, I think I'll just share my screen to show you what the Tibetan eye chart looks like. Let's see here. Going over to this. Okay, so this is a chart that you can print out. It's, roughly uh, what, 11 by 17, something like that. I mean, you can make it bigger, but that's a good size. And what you do with this is you put it up on the wall or the back of a door, and you put it at nose, that dot in the middle, you put it at nose at that level, and you don't actually touch your nose to the dot. I mean, you can. I find that if you touched your nose too all the time, it's like that that dot becomes like a stain of oil from your face. So if you want to keep the chart kind of cleaner, you just stay a little off of it, but you follow. Let me see. Can you see my cursor here?
I do.
Yeah. All right. So you start here and you start at 1 o'clock and you go around this shape and you go around the circle and you come out and you go around this shape and then you go around this circle 3 times and you continue around the shape and you go around the circle and do this and you continue all the way around. And ideally, when you get back here, come back the other way. So that's the actual movement around the Tibetan eye chart. And so this was probably like over 50 years ago. I was living in Boulder, and there used to be a metaphysical kind of bookstore up on the Pearl Street Mall between like 14th and 13th Street. It was on the south side. I think it was above where there was a movie theater down below, and that movie theater I think is like some kind of craft store now. But I remember going up there and buying the Tibetan eye chart, and I think I knew about it from somewhere. But anyway, that was my first Tibetan eye chart, and I stuck it up on the wall, and I've been practicing it like every day ever since. But very soon after I started practicing it, I realized, this activity of moving your eyes around the shape of things, I don't need this chart to be able to do that. It's like I can do that with anything. And like I said, either internal or external. So that activity of doing it off the chart, I call contouring. And this chart was developed by Tibetan monks. So it was just a way of for them of, keeping their eyes in shape. And like a lot of things, as a person gets older, there's things, we know it about the body that as you get older, you got to exercise, kind of the use it or you lose it, phenomenon. Well, it's the same thing with eyes. It's the same thing with memory. It's like you, and so this is a way that they developed of using their eyes. And just to be clear, when you're up to the chart, when you're going out to those circles, that's like way out in the periphery of your vision. So that's really exercising, your whole visual canvas, you know, which is good for a lot of things.
Well,
So
yeah, because you're really bringing your eyes all the way to the extreme maximum to, to the right or the left or up or down because you're
right,
up so close.
right, and like for instance, like a significant amount of portion of the human race get glaucoma as they get older. That's a common eye thing, and what happens typically is that the periphery starts to kind of fade, and so this is sort of a thing that counteracts that. You know. So yeah, I'll set my share now, and yeah.
Yeah, it's wonderful because when you first brought up the chart, I thought, oh, you look at it across the room, but it really changes everything to be up that close.
No, it's not meant to be used across the room. It's meant to be right. That's the way you use it. Yeah, which is, I could see how that would people would mis uh, understand that because Western eye charts are across the room, and yeah,
That's right.
yeah,
That's right.
yeah.
So how did you develop active gaze?
Um, well, like I said, I began doing this contouring, and I found I did it all the time, and then and even I used it. I use it in art when I doing my art, and I started using it with meditation, um, and and my meditation became very visual, kind of visualization heavy, and that kind of continues. There's a lot of inner stuff that I do with my meditation, meditations, I'll say, and we'll talk more about that later. Um, but as I, I, I sort of experienced that, it's like as I was doing more of that inner stuff, I could feel my exterior vision getting weaker. It's like there's sort of um, I guess a balance, and it's like you go in one direction, you know, um, and I think it's probably true if you just if you're only looking at things outside, your inner sight is going to be less, you know. So the last in the last few months, I realized this, and I thought, all right, I gotta up my level on this, and so I did. I started doing it because what I was doing a lot, even when I was doing the chart, I was doing a lot of visualization stuff. So I stopped that for the most part, and I just started doing it very cleanly, and I'll talk about what the elements of that are. Um, and doing it like, I was doing the chart like every at night before I went to bed. Um, but then I instituted, well, I'm going to do some active gaze during the day, and I was going to work it into my meditation. And um, what I've experienced is like, oh, it's working. It's like I can feel my eyesight improving, and I can feel, and it's not just like I was saying earlier, it's a way of seeing. It's not just the eyesight, the eyes improving, but it's the way of seeing improving. It's like um, that kind of like how you look out and things and kind of grab certain, you know, salient parts of the environment and make sense of those and bring them into your what you know. If you're Sherlock Holmes, it's your mind palace. You know, it's like
And I'm sure it enhances the artist's eye, especially if you're an artist and
yeah,
you're
that
wanting
too.
to
Right,
see the
right.
details.
Yeah, and one of the most lovely applications of this is what I call cloud gazing. You know, because clouds are so. I mean, you know, what was the book Jonathan Livingston Seagull was? Do you remember that book?
I do.
And it was, I think, in it was in that book he was talking about that you can, you know, like you can change the shapes of clouds by looking at them. You know, that we have that power of.
Right.
Well, it kind of, you know, kind of engages interfaces with that level of manifesting. Um, but I forget, what was your original question?
Well, how did you develop active gaze? That was the original
Yeah.
question.
So, and so then in this process of kind of upping my level with this contouring, I came up with I decided, and also um, wanting to make my whole program more available to people. I saw that this was sort of a good entryway for people, and so I developed, the the name, and that's what I'm.
It is a really nice and simple exercise, a nice entryway. One of your questions is how does it benefit the average person?
Yeah, and we've talked about this, but like I said, it's a way of seeing, and one way you can kind of experience it is sort of like the way, I don't know if you were, much into Sherlock Holmes, and um, I really got into the BBC um, show about, their version of that, and how he was just so astute, just like you come into a crime scene and it's like boom, and it's like you take the information in and boom, you take the information and then he would go back and just, like meditate, and all those pieces would like come into an arrangement, that actually made sense and moved the case forward, you know. Um, but anyway, it's a way of seeing. It's it actually improve, those ciliary muscles. They when you're focusing, especially when you do like near far, you juxtapose near far vision. You're exercising those muscles. And like we know with the body that when you exercise muscles, you have you have that capacity, as opposed to it becoming kind of dormant, you know, because of lack of use.
And
Um,
I believe the near exercise is more of a one of them is more of a vertical movement and one is more horizontal movement, depending on near or far with the muscles in your eyes.
oh, really? Yeah, I didn't even know
Yeah.
that. Yeah, huh. Um, so the other thing which we talked about is self-regulation, right? That when you're triggered, this can really help to bring some objectivity into your psychological state. Um, and then we talked about the visualization. So yes, those are the benefits.
So, what are the basic instructions for active gaze? And if you want, you can lead me and the audience through a simple exercise if you like.
Well, okay, so what I kind of already showed what to do with the eye chart, right? So,
Yes.
there's the basic. I would recommend that people start with the eye chart just as a kind of like, oh, this is the modality, and just start moving your eyes around it. Um, and do I need to show that again? Should I show that again?
Is there a way you can put a link for it in the description box or? Or
Uh,
is there a way to give people?
yeah, I'll in the final video, I'll put in a link, yeah, to that. It's really
Okay.
easy. If you just type in Tibetan eye chart in Google search, you'll get many
Oh, okay.
of those images. It's yeah,
Very good.
yeah,
Nice.
it's well known. Um, but like I said, you put your nose up to the chart, and then you follow the shapes, right? Now,
Mm.
the thing that makes it more meditative is that um, you can you can breathe as you're moving, so your breath becomes sort of like a a way to propel your attention, right? So it kind of just, you know, and then
Almost imagine if you're driving a car down the lines, your inhale is like pressing the gas pedal, and your exhale is
yeah,
maybe
I mean, you can
press.
do it, you know, however, there's so many ways to work with breath because it's a controllable element, you know. But, you know, you can breathe in and, you know, on one of the lines and breathe out on another. You know, you could do it that way. Or you could just breathe in, you know, just naturally and just let it flow, you know. Anyway, breath helps to it kind of um, creates more of a flow and you know, it's in your body, so it's grounding in your body. The next thing that you want to do is actually deepen your grounding in the body by putting your mind in your dantian, which is, you know, the physical center of the body. It's also called the hara. It's called the core, right? I think in the West we call it the core. Um, yeah, and which is it's 3 fingers below your navel and 3 fingers in. So it's kind of backed by the sacrum, you know. And it's not to be confused with the sexual chakra. It's like a different, even though they're like right in the same area, it's like a different. I think it's behind that chakra, you know, in terms of location in the body. So anyway, there's another element. So you have the actual contouring, you have the breathing, you have the dantian, right? Um, and then you can also, because you've put your attention down, you know, away from your eyes, it's good to connect that up. And the way you do that is by putting your tongue on the roof of your mouth, which I call the atlas. That's that kind of meditation element of putting your tongue on the roof of your mouth. And what that does is it connects the energy of your body with your head, and of course with your eyes. So and and so then once you've done that with the Tibetan eye chart, you've kind of like worked those elements in, then it's like I would recommend just, you know, looking out the window and contour the a tree. Like a tree is a very nice, you know, it's green and it's got you know, different shapes and things, and you just just follow that. But keep all those elements, the dantian, the breathing, the tongue on the roof of the mouth. So in this active gaze is actually there's 4 elements. There's the actual contouring, there's the dantian, the breathing and the tongue and the atlas.
Oh, okay.
And
Very nice.
and then if you want to do something close, you know, something like you like a coffee mug, you could actually
Oh, put
uh,
it up to your nose and
no, just leave it on the table and just do it, you know, just do the things that are like they're a little closer than intermediate, but they're, you know, but you could I found it's pretty interesting to like I experience like when I'm lying in bed and I'm waking up, I like to do the near far exercise. And so I'll actually like I'll start far and then I'll come in, and then it's like when your vision comes in really close, like right like at the edge of a blanket that's like right by you, you start to see, you know, the threads. You can get very microscopic with it, which is also, you know, I mean, what is the vision that for most people goes when they get older? right? They stop being able to see close. They become, what's that called? When
Uh,
you can only see far,
a
well,
farsighted.
farsighted. You become farsighted, So this is actually and of course the chart itself helps with this too.
Mm.
Helps with that. I think it's called like presbyopathy or something like that. There's a medical term for it. Um, but anyway, that's basically the instruction for. Um,
Can you guide us for one interior
oh,
contouring?
interior. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, close your eyes and and see what you see. It's like I what I'm seeing. It's like I won't pretend to predict what people are going to see behind their closed eyes. I think it's going to be completely unique for every human being. But what I'm seeing, I'm just seeing some like shapes, and there's light and there's dark. So for instance, where I see a dark shape, then I try to breathe around the edge of that shape. And as I'm breathing around the edge of the shape, it can become more defined, and it will very often morph. It'll just turn into something, else. And and when it does turn into something else, I recommend to not go, oh, look, it's a tree, and really try to make it into a tree. To just kind of let the same way that they, with a lot of times with meditation, they say, just experience thoughts as like, a river of thoughts going by. You don't grab onto any one of them. The same thing with the images. Don't grab onto any of them. Just experience what you're seeing, and with however amount of clarity or fuzziness that you know. But whatever is fuzzy, if you look at it more closely, it actually gets more defined. And remember to use your breath, and you can and use your dantian, and ways to because you might encounter something that might be actually like the an image associated with some kind of trauma, and then you actually need some like grounding in order to not get pulled into that. So that's where it's good to remember these kind of elements, the sub-elements of contouring.
Oh, but this is also very different from, let's say, focusing on a particular organ inside,
Um,
right?
yeah, well, I mean, okay, so organ, or you can just focus on a pain. You have a pain in your body, and going into the pain, that pain has a shape, you know, and so to breathe around the shape of that pain, it changes, and I think that's the changing that is the nature of healing, because when there is a pain or an affliction, it's because it's become static, it's become stagnant, and it's like fixed. And so by going into it, it's actually starts to change and move,
What I love about this so much is that it gives you a focus that keeps the mind busy in a way that
yes.
gets you out of the way to allow transformation to happen. Because so often we have a judgment about whether that pain should be there or how do we get rid of it or this and that. But by you just saying, I'm just going to go around this shape, it puts you in a very focused, neutral place while being present with it, which is an incredible way to hold space for allowing transformation and healing. It's
Yeah, and
really important.
I'm really glad you brought up what you just did, because it works not just on, like a pain in your body, but it works I mean it works exterior too. It's like we're so used to, like, I do it when I'm driving, right? Because and what I found, there's like a marked difference between, like, I think a lot of people driving are driving from a place of, this is me and I'm driving, and it's like very kind of subjectively focused, that you're kind of like moving, through the world with yourself and your thoughts and your opinions and your, you know, and what I find when I do this when I'm driving, it's more like curiosity. It's like, oh, what's that? Oh, and I become very attentive to and very unopinionated about what I'm seeing.
Yes, I'm very curious
Yeah,
and just present with it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess I just want to make a disclaimer that, it's like you use it in driving at your own, like you choose whether you want to do that or not. For me, it actually makes me more aware. But I'm not going to pretend to know what anybody else's psychology is and how it works.
Hopefully, you're not doing it with an object that's behind the car while you're driving
Right,
forward.
right. And sometimes, I might, I mean, I like sometimes to like look way down the road, and see, but if that goes up to say the mountains, we live in Colorado here, and I'm like, focusing on the mountains, it's like, oh yeah, you are driving on the road here, so like pay attention. I find it just to like contour the car in front of me,
Sure.
it's license plate or its wheels, or the shadow of that it, makes on the ground is like it's like this, it keeps your mind on the road.
This is really a beautiful presence exercise. Really.
It is, yeah, it is. Yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned inner technology. Is uh is that a phrase you came up with, and what does it mean?
I guess it is a phrase I came up with, and I came up with it in um, sort of in response to all the outer technology that's uh, being developed in the world that we live in, specifically AI. And I saw people in general talking about all this, like, oh, you can do this and you could do that, and it's like, and nobody was talking about like what's developing inside, like the almost as if the inside of um, our system, which is called a system, um, was static. It's what it is, and it's going to be what it is into the future, and it is what it was, and it's just continued from there. You almost kind of like we're cavemen and we'll always be cavemen. It's like, and I knew from my own. I mean, I've been meditating for over 50 years, and I know that um, there's a lot of stuff you can do inside. You can work with you. Um, so essentially the answer to your question, it's the interface between matter and spirit, right? Because we're a physical body, but when you look in to the energy, in your body, and even if you're looking at a pain, that's still connected to the energy. If you look into that, then you are starting to interface with the energy, and then energy is simply a it's it's like, you could call it spirit, but I would call it like a denser form of spirit. But you have the physical, and then you have energy, and then you have spirit in a real basic kind of division of three. There's a lot more layers in there, but um, you start interfacing with the blueprint of this creation, you know, you.
And
So,
if you think about it, there's like so much outer expansion right now with AI and that outer technology, and yet how much percentage of our brain are we actually using, and how much are we capable of using? And there's a whole world of inner technology with reaching the yogic siddha levels, and it is true. It's very easy to put all our energy outside, outsourcing
well,
rather, yeah.
I don't know if you're familiar with a guy named Drunvalo Melchizedek.
Hmm.
All right, so some he's somewhat known in the spiritual, self-improvement uh, field. But he said something a while ago, and I've always remembered this. He said, when you see a civilization that has advanced technology, it's not an indication that the civilization is advanced. It's an indication that the civilization is about to become advanced. In other words, there is it's sort of like what we're yearning for and in need of developing, we project that on the environment first so that we can, I don't know, experience it more. We're such a materialistic civilization that if it's outside, if it's a pill, you can experience it more easily than if it's inside and just, I don't know, more ambiguous, because most people are outward focused, they're not inward focused. So um, inner technology that is the reflection of that outer technology. And to kind of go even more, deeper with that, are you familiar with Greg Braden? Have you ever, Greg
Yes.
Braden? So another guy in the spiritual field, but he comes from actually a geological field. He's been a native of Colorado for, you know, probably most of his life. And I remember seeing him. I went to a talk of his back in like the late 90s. And, he was already talking about the implications of, he looks at it from a very scientific, grounded, but he thinks this is what he said. And this, a lot of people think this, that a human being is actually a seeded species. In other words, our DNA was the reason we kind of like did a leap, in evolution. Scientists look at, that the progression, and it's like there's a place where it kind of goes like, what happened there, that we were seeded by an advanced civilization, advanced species.
Mm.
So we have our DNA actually has this advanced capability. It's dormant in most people, but it's there. And what Greg Braden says is that we're coming to a fork in the road, and the fork in the road is really not very far away, like 2030. And the fork in the road is, because you probably know that there, like people are becoming more and more, I'll just say it, cyborg. Like we're doing implants, medical implants, but it's, like the stuff that Musk is doing. We're actually putting AI chips inside the brain, and all that. There's a fork where if we go that direction, we're going to nullify that seeding that we got. In other words, that there is a divine and potential that is in every one of us. And if we go the cyborg route, we're going to lose that divine
Like
potential.
if you don't use it, you lose it. And so I think this answers one of your questions is why are you an advocate of inner technology, but you're not just an advocate, you feel really strongly of how important it is right now for us to really develop inside rather than replace ourselves without accessing our true capacities.
Well, and
And so,
also to kind of take a step back, it's like, how do we handle this outer technology? Well, if we're still cavemen handling outer technology, if you can kind of predict that the result of that progression is not going to be very good. It's like we got to co-evolve. We've got to our sense of um, you know morality, conscience, but also our, I mean, we're talking superhuman capability here, you know, and it's like un, unless we co-evolve with the outer technology, it's not going to be a balanced thing, you know. So, and just to kind of put another spice in the soup, um, they say that the so an avatar, before the West kind of took Avatar and turned it into this, profile thing. Avatar is a Hindu word. It means it refers to an advanced being who comes to Earth to other teach the rest of humanity about these advanced abilities, which are, we're all endowed with. And in the past, those avatars have been people, like Jesus, like Buddha, like um, uh, um, the self-realization guy,
Yogananda.
Yogananda. I mean, it's there is a new avatar that's coming, and the thing that's different is that it's not going to be a person. The new avatar is a collective avatar. The new avatar is us. And in order for us to, in other words, we have to unite as a human species. We have to become the true potential of the human species in order to become the next avatar. And it's not like, oh, that would be nice. It's more like, if we don't do this, we're not going to survive. It's like this is a step we have to take, or we'll destroy ourselves with all the lack of unity in our species, which is already evident in the world. Um,
So again, I think what you're saying that inner technology is imperative
it's
for this,
imperative. That's the word. Yeah.
for us to embody the frequencies of that avatar.
Yeah. And so just to get a little more geeky, so what what we need, this has been talked about by, many people in the spiritual field. Um, it's called the second body, it's called the platinum body, it's called the rainbow body. But basically, it's the energy, we were talking about it before. It's the energy blueprint of what makes our physical form. But when a person can identify with that and become well versed and developed in that, then in a sense they transcend their physical body and they exist beyond their body. In other words, they become immortal, you know, in the and then when they want to be in physical form, they can be in physical form, but they exist, their identity is in something beyond the physical form. And a good example of this, this is what I believe, that Jesus was developing his second body, and he developed it. And at the Last Supper, when he shared his blood with his disciples, that he was literally sharing his blood, and it's known in, like the whatever that field would, you would call it paganism or um, hermetics, or that blood is actually carries the resonance of the astral body, which is similar to the second body. So he was actually priming his disciples to see him when he came back resurrected. When he came back resurrected, he came back in his second body, taking on the physical form. But they were tuned into that.
They had to get a transmission from him of that frequency for
Right. I
that
mean,
to
they could
perceive.
somebody could have done it without, but that's they needed that help, and that's so the second body is how we as a species unite and become Kalki. Like we each have to discover our second body, and in the realm of second body, it is connected. It's like like all the mushroom, all the fungi are all connected. It's
If I if I'm understanding correctly, if someone had a near-death experience or left their body, that would be the second body. And so it's about developing that familiar becoming familiar with the second body.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's like I'm glad you brought up the near death experience. It's like you ideally you would have the near death experience and you'd like, holy shit, this is a this is quite a car, quite a vehicle that I've got here. And but you come back in driving the vehicle. It's like you don't leave it there and just kind of remember it and, oh, it'd be nice to experience that again. You come back driving that car. You know, that's the kind. I think that's what we're talking about, is that level of development. And another kind of like reference to media. I remember did you see Doctor Strange? With um, uh, Cumberbatch, Benedict Cumberbatch, that version of Doctor
I
Strange.
don't think
But
so.
but I think and when he was developing, when he went to the East and was training, that's what he was developing, that the second
Okay.
body. Um,
And
to
would you say that your inner technology does is a practice or a philosophy for developing the second body?
Yes, yes. So active gaze is one of six modalities. I call them the human modalities. And those six human modalities are part of this bigger meditation system, which I call Platinum Jesus. And that is what I'm seeking to do with that meditation system, is have a training for people to develop, their inner technology, to develop their second body, and to become united with every other person in the Kalki avatar.
Do you mind really quickly naming the six different techniques
Yeah,
within
they actually they fit right on the hand. So active gaze is actually the thumb, and then I have what's called agency modality. It's actually at this point, it's sort of the advanced level is infinite agency modality, and this is more for it's like a doing kind of modality. Um,
Mhm.
and then there is what I call the soul kernel. Um, and then there is, so I'm a creative artist. I, you know, play music, I write, I do art, I dance, and I've developed methods for each of those art forms, which are based on these metaphysical principles. So it's creative metaphysics is that modality. And then there is a modality which it kind of incorporates all of the Platinum Jesus aspects, elements, and I just call that the executive function modality. And then there is um, kind of a kernel practice, which is something I use. It's like when I'm feeling tired, I just I do the third world squat, and I I'm not going to explain it completely because it would take a whole explanation, but basically it's called embody the absolute. So it's actually connecting with the absolute, which is the void from which we all come, and it's it's kind of like a respite, and that's in the palm of the hand.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So those are the six modalities, and like I said, they're sort of like the tool belt that you can put on as you walk through life. You
I
know,
see.
yeah.
And again, your first one, the thumb is active gaze, and
Is
that's what
active gaze.
we're talking
Yeah.
about today.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Yeah, I guess, you have any other questions for me?
I don't think so. Is there anything else you'd want to share about active gaze, or maybe um, how can people learn about it or have an experience with it?
Yeah,
Or
yeah. So if people want to just get in touch with me, they can email me at, just my email is Christopher McCore at gmail.com, and McCore is just MACOR, and no dashes or anything, just Christopher McCore, MACOR at gmail.com. Um, I have I have a number of groups on Facebook, but I think the one that most kind of relates to this is, it's called the Holy Ghost in the Machine.
Hmm.
So if you just, search for on Facebook Holy Ghost in the Machine, and it's a group, and you can join that group. It's a public group, and so you can get in touch there. And I do have a website for Active Gaze, and it's, site SITE dot activegaze.com.
Oh, that's great. Okay.
Yeah.
And do you have a plan for your next teaching or class or offering?
Um, well, now that you mention it, one of the aspects of, and I'm gonna try to just like in 25 words or less, just kind of name this and leave it at that. One of the aspects of that I've developed in the Platinum Jesus meditation system is what I call the I Ching breath codes. And
Hmm.
essentially, it's it's a way of taking the 64 hexagrams in the I Ching and, spanning them across the whole the course of the year. So each hexagram gets 6 days, and taking that hexagram and, um, which has a combination of solid and broken lines in a
Right.
specific order, and there's 64 permutations of that. So each one of those hexagrams is like an archetype of the universe, right? So it's like this. So when you and what I've done is I've found a way of superimposing that onto the six-pointed star, and then the six-pointed star, which is a major part of the Platinum Jesus, um, meditation system. It becomes a way of infusing that archetype into your being for that 6 day period. So each 6 days there's like a new, it's sort of like a very rigorous spiritual, psychological, even somatic course in the 64 aspects of the universe.
I
And
see. So
it's called the I Ching breath codes. Yeah,
yeah, for those 6 days, you're embodying a certain
yeah,
energy.
right.
Okay, this is excellent. So
Well,
I guess so, but if someone just wanted to start simply with you, the best way to step in is to just learn the active gaze, right?
yes, and there's a free ebook, so I'll put that also in the link wherever I'm posting this video. I will put that, and then there'll be my contact information. So yeah, if somebody was, somewhat astute in terms of meditation and, metaphysical things, they could the ebook could give them the guidance they need to do this.
Okay. And
Yeah.
then otherwise people can email you and let you know
They
that they're
can email
interested.
me, or they can go further on the site. The site will actually lead to, a course, and actually, and also in an entryway into the six modalities, human modalities. So, yeah.
Well, I think it's absolutely wonderful what you've created with the inner technology, and it seems so very, very important, especially with the explosion of AI moving so fast that we really do need to balance it with inner work to keep balance in the universe, the inner and the outer. And it's really important work right now.
Yeah, and it's almost like, I mean, development of inner technology has been needed for a long time. And it's almost like, you know how it's like if there's some like a wound, like a trauma inside yourself, and you just haven't, been able to look at it. You just like, oh, I don't want to feel that. What inevitably happens is that it gets projected out in the world somehow, right? Well, I think AI is like a projection of the deep
Oh,
inner need for the development of inner technology. Um,
interesting.
yeah,
Yeah. That's a really profound way of looking at it. And it's empowering because it helps us claim how extremely talented we are inside or powerful.
yeah, yeah. And then, you can kind of think of it also like the internet. It's like the internet came was getting developed, and it turned into this thing where essentially the whole world is connected. It's like a precursor to this Kalki that we're talking about.
Sure. And of course, the internet could be telepathy connection,
Telepathy, that's right.
right?
Yes.
Mhm.
Telepathy is a power of inner technology that's been around for eons. It's just some people have developed it and most people don't even know about it, or they just think it's so far beyond their ability that they don't even, consider it within their reach.
Well, I love the name of your overall program called Platinum Jesus. I think you definitely are a Platinum Jesus.
Yes, it's been said I've been called Blonde Jesus before, so yeah.
Yeah.
It's more platinum than blonde. Yeah. Well, Jasmine, thanks so much for taking the time to do this.
You're so welcome. It was really, really a pleasure to interview you.
Yeah. All right.
And I really think you're offering a wonderful service, and I really hope people don't hesitate at with reaching out to you.
Well, thanks again.
Yes, you're
Be
welcome.
be well.
Be well.